how much you are making? Is it profitable or not?
I would say for now, yes, it's profitable. I make around 4,000 a month.
How someone from India can attract the American clients for freelance video editing?
I think that the two biggest challenges for, let's say, if I were in India trying to attract American clients, the two biggest challenges I can think of are the time zone barrier and the language barrier.
How to come up with a price?
$50 for this video or $15 an hour for this service. And so right there, I was like, okay, well, I can do this job for this amount per hour.
तो हेलो दोस्तों, माय नेम इज़ अमन मलिक एंड वेलकम बैक टू सेकंड एपिसोड ऑफ AMG पॉडकास्ट। तो जो आज की हमारी गेस्ट है वो है कॉलीन कावोलो और वो खुद एक फ्रीलांस वीडियो एडिटर हैं और वो एक कंटेंट क्रिएटर भी हैं। वो फ्रीलांस वीडियो एडिटिंग से रिलेटेड कंटेंट बनाती रहती हैं और वो अमेरिका से हैं। तो उनके जितने भी सोशल लिंक्स हैं वो मैंने नीचे डिस्क्रिप्शन में लगा दिए हैं, आप जाकर उनकी प्रोफाइल को चेकआउट कर सकते हो। और यार ये जो पूरी कॉन्वर्सेशन होने वाली है ये हमारी इंग्लिश में होने वाली है क्योंकि उन्हें हिंदी नहीं आती। मैं जानता हूँ कि मेरे चैनल का जो कॉन्टेंट है वो मैं हिंदी में बनाता हूँ, बट दिस इज समथिंग दैट आई एम ट्राइंग न्यू हियर कि अगर मैं फॉरेन क्लाइंट्स को बुलाता हूं तो उनके साथ तो मुझे इंग्लिश में ही बात करनी पड़ेगी। बट मैंने इसका एक सॉल्यूशन ये निकाला है कि मैं फ्यूचर में यहाँ पर हिंदी में सबटाइटल्स लगा दूंगा। तो जिनको हिंदी में देखना है वो हिंदी सबटाइटल्स पढ़ सकते हैं और जिनको इंग्लिश में देखना है उनके लिए तो कंटेंट अवेलेबल ही है। तो यार ये मैं कुछ नया ट्राई कर रहा हूँ, मुझे कमेंट्स में बता देना कि ये आपको कैसा लगा। बट अभी के लिए कॉन्वर्सेशन इंग्लिश में होने वाली है, बट यहाँ पर बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट इन्फॉर्मेशन शेयर होने वाली है, तो मेक श्योर आप इस पॉडकास्ट को पूरा देखें।
एंड इट्स बीन ग्रेट टू कनेक्ट विद अ फेलो कंटेंट क्रिएटर एज वेल एज वीडियो एडिटर। And before anything, let me just share our story with our audience that we have been planning this almost from a year now. And the biggest barrier that holding us is the time zones. So we talked about like a year ago in August or something. And now it is happening in March. In August 2021, we talked. And in March 2022, we are now talking, we are now live.
Finally. Yeah, the time zone thing really is, it's crazy, you know, it is tough to coordinate that. So I'm very happy we finally get to do this.
Yeah, definitely. So Colleen, let's start our podcast. So it is going to be my second episode of my podcast. I already shot one episode. So let's start with your journey, like how you get into video editing or freelancing or in content creation. So let's start with that.
Sure. My journey. Let's think. My journey started probably in high school when I found my love of video editing. I went to college. I went to a college here in my city and got my degree with a concentration in sound design and video editing. And actually, it was just sound design, but I always did love video editing.
Okay.
But because there was some, I kind of fell off the earth a little bit in terms of my video editing. For a few years after I graduated college, I just fell into other things. There were some shows in town that didn't need any video editors, but they needed other things. So I just fell into some different worlds within the film industry. And it wasn't until I was maybe 27, so maybe a few years after that, that I was like, I got to get back into video editing because, you know, you just find you fall into other things, but they just don't work out. And you think, well, what did I really love? And I did love video editing. So I started to focus back to build up my freelance business and my clients. And so it's just grown from there, which is really great.
Okay. So how long have you been freelancing?
Well, I've been freelancing. I guess, I mean, I've been freelancing for, I guess I should have thought about that. I'll say on and off, maybe 10 years.
10 years?
Yeah, because even when I fell off, even whenever I wasn't doing even whenever I wasn't doing video editing mainstream, I still had like some clients. I still had some projects that I was working on. So yeah, so on and off, I'll say 10 years.
10 years is a very long time. I have been freelancing since 2 or 3 years, and I feel like a full-time job is way better than freelancing, because in freelancing our client thinks that we are every time available, like in night or in day, in morning, every time we are available, we are working. But in full-time job there is a limit, like 9 to 5 you have to work there, and then you get home and there is a me time and you can enjoy yourself. But in freelancing, 10 years is a very long time.
It's a very long time. And I will say that only in the past year or two have I been really like, this past year has been full-time freelancing, and it's been just growing since then. So I really only felt the burnout of freelance video editing for like maybe the past like 2-3 years. So yes, it is very hard.
So since you have been in freelancing since 10 years, that is a very long time. So just please tell our audience that how to master remote freelancing.
Well, here's what I have to say about that. I mean, of course, you have to perfect your skills. You're only going to carry enough jobs if you are a professional freelancer, a freelance video editor, and you can edit multiple projects, and you have the speed as a video editor to carry you through, growing as a professional. However, I think that what makes mastering remote freelancing is the soft skills. So for me, that is communication is probably the biggest skill that I think is important to master.
Agreed.
Because being able to manage multiple clients, being very honest and open and transparent about deadlines and staying up to date, I think that's essential. Honestly, that's probably the number one thing. There's other things like organization, obviously, is huge. I think that's something that took me a long time as a video editor to grasp, because of course you have to be organized anyways. But then once you become a freelancer and you start, doing this more and more, you are managing multiple clients. You need to keep projects backed up. You need to know exactly where to find a project from weeks ago if you need to. So organization is so huge. Those are definitely the top two it takes to master remote freelancing.
So I really like the point about communication, because since I'm into freelancing since 2 years, and communication is like the biggest thing. Like being good at software is other thing, being good at your own skill is other thing, but other than that you have to be good in communication and your marketing skills, which includes negotiations and all of that stuff. But communication is at top, because if you don't know how to talk to clients, how to convince them, and how to convince them that you are good for them, then it is whether you are very good at your skill or not, it is not going to happen that you get that client. But if you are average at your skill and you are very good at communication skills and you are very good at convincing people, then there is a chances that you can get that client. So that's what I think about communication.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, I do want to add in there, along with communication, like you said, writing is so important, because you are more than likely talking to the people over email, over a platform, and you need to be able to convince them via your writing that you are the right person for the job. So having really good writing skills, along with communication, is so important.
So important. So my next question is that a lot of my audience ask me that how to come up with a price as a beginner freelancer, or even who have a little experience in freelancing. They also struggle with this problem.
Yeah, it's probably one of the hardest things. How do you put a price on your skills? And how do you go about doing it? Do you have a flat rate? Do you come up with packages? Do you do an hourly rate? And for me, how I started was, my freelancing journey started on Upwork, specifically because I just didn't know any other way to go. And so I went on Upwork, and just by looking at the jobs and looking through jobs that I think that I could apply to, and seeing the budgets that the clients have, I already knew right then and there, this client can only pay me $50 for this video or $15 an hour for this service. And so right there, I was like, okay, well, I can do this job for this amount per hour. And then from there, I created my rate. And then I went from there. So, which is unfortunate because a client can dictate what they're willing to pay. That's great. But it doesn't necessarily equate to the value that the video editor brings. So you kind of have this level of, well, I think I'm worth more than this. However, when you are competing against a lot of people on these platforms, you kind of do need to play into the client's hands in the beginning. So that would be my biggest advice, is to go on Upwork and see what clients are willing to pay for, and in terms of their budget, and kind of assume your pricing from there, at least when you're first starting, because then you can grow after a while when you have the experience to back it up.
I think that it comes through exploration. Like we had done a project in very little rate, very average rate, and now we think that we can charge so much for that. So I think it comes through exploration when you are struggling and when you are getting clients, and when you become a little pro, or when you spend a little time in some kind of a field, then you already realize that how much your skills are worth. Talking about clients, so how many clients are you currently handling?
Man, I should have counted them before. I would say 7, but I think it's actually less because they go on and off. Sometimes sometimes like I have to constantly be checking in and keeping track of maybe 7, but in reality, 1, 2, 3, 4, let's say 5. In reality, it's more like 5 that I am like keeping track, that I am actually working for currently. And then a couple other ones that are kind of like, I just check in every once in a while.
Since you are handling 5 clients, so because people like to hear numbers, whenever I am talking about my freelancing journey, my like freelance video editing career, every person, at least 80% of them, ask me how much you make through freelancing, because nobody wants to learn the skill. They just jump to the number. They just jump to the like money, how they can make big money. We'll get to that point, that what is the difference between money and like your skill. But my question here is that how much you are making, is it profitable or not?
Yeah, I was actually just thinking about this question, because is it profitable? I would say for now, yes, it's profitable. I make around $4,000 a month with my freelance video editing. However, my student loans are in a pause right now because of COVID and things. When they come back, I'm not so sure it will be so profitable. But that's honestly why part of the reason why I wanted to start freelance video editing, because I knew that the potential would be there for me to be able to pay off my student loans. But it is a slow process of getting to that point. And so I'm still working on that, on becoming truly profitable. No. So, but right now it's good.
Because apart from like the total amount that you are making, there are certain expenses that you put into your freelance work. A lot of people have that misconception in mind that in freelancing, you are working from home, there are no expenses. But I think this is a very big myth, because we have a software to pay, we have an internet bill to pay, we have electricity to pay, and like for our health, we spend a little money to our health, like we go to the gym because we spend all our day sitting on a desk. So these all things act as an expense in our freelancing journey. So if you are planning to start freelancing, don't think it like that there are no expenses. There is. A lot of people in my community are beginner freelancers, and they want to make their careers in freelance video editing, and they haven't started yet. So as you are into freelancing since a very long time, so what are the do's and don'ts that you want to tell to a beginner freelancer that just want to start their careers?
Definitely. I think that one of the biggest do's that I talk about on my channel a lot is to consider a video editing niche along with your video editing. And so essentially a specialty within video editing. For example, YouTube video editing is a niche. Or you could think about gaming editing. That actually is an even tighter niche. Wedding videos. Maybe you only want to work on feature films or short films. So whatever your niche is, and more than likely there's something along with just video editing that is part of your passion of why you want to do video editing. So I would just say to try and go all in on your niche, because it is so competitive out there as a video editor. And so any way that you can just tighten your skills up a little bit and just focus on one niche, I think it is more helpful for you in the long run.
Okay.
I will also say that along with video editing, we already know that video editing is kind of vast, and it can involve other crafts like graphic design or videography or color correction or sound design. There's a lot of other pieces of video editing that's all kind of collected. And so I would say that if you can become a little bit more well-rounded in your skills, that actually happened to me a few years ago. I became a lot more skilled in things like graphics and typography and working in Illustrator. And that was, I think, really helpful for me in being able to pick up different clients, kind of more on the branding side. And so I would just say if you can become a little bit more well-rounded, that is also really helpful as a beginner video editor. Now for don'ts, I had to write them down because I'm like, what should you not do? I think as a beginner video editor, it would be unwise to invest in very expensive equipment right off the bat. I think everybody gets very excited to start hurrying up in video editing, and they want to just get everything that they want and get the most expensive stuff. I try and only purchase things out of a very direct need. For example, this computer that I'm doing this on was like $3,000-$4,000, and I wasn't just going to buy. I was not just going to buy that just to buy it. So I had to, you really have to wait until there is a really direct need. I need this computer because I have these clients already and they're willing to pay me, and I just need, the right equipment to go with it. So
investment.
Yeah, definitely consider the investment and try to wait before buying anything too big. Definitely. That is a don't.
Okay. So So have you finished do's and don'ts? Yeah.
I mean, I could probably go on, but do you have any don'ts? I know that those are kind of,
I
could
think,
be a lot.
Yeah, you have mentioned all the do's and don'ts, but I think the don't that I consider is that in starting, it takes a lot of patience. You have to be patient because when I started out, I haven't got my client for 4 months. I'm just searching, and although I'm very good at my skill, but I'm not getting any clients because of my portfolio. So you have to be patient. I don't think it really count as a don't or do's, but it's just a general advice that you have to be patient in freelancing, because you have to prove yourself. If you are doing a full-time job, or if you are doing going for any interview for a full-time job, then also you have to go through a certain process, through interview and through all of those things to prove yourself. And in freelancing also, you have to prove yourself. And in freelancing, consider every thing is a client pitch. It depends on client pitch, how you convince client and how you convince them that you are the great person for them. So I think this is just a general advice, because you already covered all the do's and don'ts. And I really liked that point, that computer thing. And let me also tell our audience, whoever is listening, that Colleen is also a content creator. She has a YouTube channel. I'll provide that link in the description. You can check out her videos, and she's making very great content. And I think you must check that out. Apart from my channel, she is also making very good content about freelance video editing and video editing as a career.
Thank you.
So my next question is that how someone from India can attract the American clients for freelance video editing, because there are a lot of people through LinkedIn or through Upwork or Fiverr.
Okay, thinking about this, I think that the two biggest challenges for, let's say, if I were in India trying to attract American clients, the two biggest challenges I can think of are the time zone barrier and the language barrier. And not even to say that, I mean, even if you do speak English, there is still a difference there.
Cultural differences.
Right. So, and you can't really do anything about either one of those things, but I would just say to go all in on selling the client, because you can't really do anything about, where you're living, but you can really maximize your marketing skills when it comes to attracting this client. For me, I mean, not only, let's say you're typing up a proposal to the client, like not only do you want to hit them at the right time, right whenever the job posts or very soon after. So I don't know if time zone wise, that's going to make a difference. You also want to make sure that your English grammar is as good as it can be, so that there's no confusion or anything when they're reading it. But more than anything, I think that number one, I mean, I'm going to talk about this later, but I think that the cover letter and your introductory paragraph to your client is the most important thing that you can write ever. It's the most important thing to the client. I think a lot of people come from a place of fear, and they want to hurry up and provide the client with everything that they've ever done. And here's all these reasons why I'm good for the job. And here's all this, here, watch all these things. I just saw this with somebody that I was just talking to, and they sent me all these links, and here it's all these things. However, there is a level of selfishness that comes with every American, and every American just wants to talk about themselves, especially if they are an American client. And so if there's any way that you can not quite think about all of the links that you can send them, or all the reasons why you're perfect for the job, but specifically what you will do to help them get what they want out of the project. So any way that you can circle it back to the client, and you can still talk about yourself, but talk about the client as much as possible. You research the client, you know who they are, you know how you can help them. Any way that you can do that, I think, is going to be, I mean, that could just come from anywhere you come from. It doesn't have to be India. Yeah. But I think that is probably the most helpful, the thing that will help you the most, on top of course, things like grammar and stuff like that.
I think if you have a great portfolio and you solve their particular problem, then you will get a client anywhere from the world. But I do suggest people that first find clients around you, and then you can progress a little by little. It is a step-by-step process, that it's like a stairs, one step, then second step, then third step. So don't just reach out to client from another corner of the world. Just look around your locality, or your college, or your school, or anything, whatever you are in. So just start from there. So I think you already talked about niches, but my question here is that what are the top niches in video editing that can pay you well, or what are the top niches according to you?
If you're thinking about top niches that can pay you well, corporate, maybe, is a top niche. My best clients are more on the corporate side, as far as what they can offer pay wise. However, in terms of top niches, I really have to say, and I don't know if this pays the best, but I think that understanding the social media niche is something that's incredibly important, because it's like a hockey stick. It's just going to keep going up. And I think that understanding how to edit for social media, and that includes YouTube as well, but also, just being able to understand all the platforms, how to edit, the different dimensions, being able to have really engaging, clean looking graphics, really understanding that, I think, is huge, just specifically because it's just growing so much, and it really is not stopping. And I'd like to hope that it will become one of the higher paying ones, because it is so important.
Yeah. So I always suggest to my community about this question is that there is no certain top niches in this freelance video editing field, because online, like social media thing is emerging day by day. So like if I talk about a year ago, then there is a gaming culture. Everybody is making gaming videos, gaming montages. Here in India, I don't know about America, but here in India, last year there was a full of gaming videos culture, gaming montages with upbeat sync. And now it is more of a Instagram reel culture, where people are making Instagram reels where they are telling about some facts or telling some stories, and they want someone who can edit that reel with progress bar and with subtitles. So I think being a freelance video editor, you have to be on your toes to pick up the trend. So my next question here is that how to stand out amongst competition, because there are a lot of freelance video editor these days. Hundreds of people are like trying to become video editor, and there are hundreds of people who are having a very good portfolio, and clients these days have so many options to choose. So why client particularly choose you? Because you have a portfolio or something. So how to stand out amongst competition?
I'm biased here because I am so pro cover letter, and I actually have a story to tell about this.
Definitely.
So I was hiring an assistant a few months ago. Because that is my goal to eventually become, sort of a boss. And I was hiring an assistant, and I had received a ton of applications, so much so that it's like, how am I supposed to look through this? How am I supposed to sift through all of these people? Me personally, I only feel a connection towards people if they are truly introducing themselves to me. So I separated all of the applicants by if they submitted a cover letter or if they did not. And if you did not, you were done. You were cut. And if your cover letter was general and was not actually talking to me, you were done. And I only considered those who were actually talking to me, who had actually looked at my channel, who had actually looked at my videos, and who knew I wanted to work with you, and here's why. Because again, I'm a selfish client. I'm a selfish American. And I want to see that those people were actually interested in working for me. So I can't say that this is the same for everyone. I know that depending on the client that you're trying to impress, things like the portfolio, having a standout portfolio, demo reel are incredibly important in being able to show your skills. But for me personally, I think being able to reach and connect to the client as much as possible. And so for me, that is through writing and through a cover letter. That is the most important thing.
Okay, so that the basic conclusion here is that if you put a lot of effort into writing an email or writing a cover letter or in writing someone something about, whenever you are applying for a job, then you are a good person. And if you are just copy pasting from clipboard to the email and just to put 2-3 links of a portfolio, then I think you are not actually deserving or respecting that particular position. And,
which is so sad to hear that and hear it that way.
Which is so sad, because with my experience, whenever I am particularly writing an email, especially for client A, for example, and I studied that client a lot, and I'm particularly writing every line by line just to relate to his or her brand. And then there are 80% of chances then I'm getting a reply back from a particular client. But if I'm just copy pasting, then I already know from my heart that I'm not getting a reply. I'm just doing a formality to just convince my mind that I applied for the job. So I think that way, because whenever you are doing something, not just video editing, whenever you are doing something, it's just that you have a gut feeling from your heart, from your soul, that you are getting. I know for a fact that a lot of people have this feeling that they already know that they are getting this, they are getting pass in their, for example, exam, or they are getting their dream job. They already got a gut feeling, because they spent a lot of hard work. They spent a lot of time and energy into those things that they already knew that. So that's what I believe. My next question is that how someone can with no prior experience start their careers in video editing. Like what's a basic roadmap that you can suggest or tell the audience?
Right. So, don't take my advice because I started in film school. Well, I shouldn't say that. I started in high school. I had a love for video editing, but I don't want to say I made the mistake of going to film school, but I think that there's a lot of other paths that you can go. And so if you want to pursue a career in video editing, I don't think that you need to think that you have to go to film school. I think that there's a lot of opportunities. You just need to find the right people to help you, because in order to edit video, well, there's actually a lot of ways you can go. You can go the route of production and maybe trying to make making movies with your friends, and you can edit those. If you don't want to go that route, you can. There's things like fan footage. People like to edit. I never really quite understood them, but people make a lot of money doing them, or they make a lot of attention doing them. Editing fan fiction, fan footage. And then there's a lot that you can go about editing just to gain the experience if you're first starting out. And I just think that you're going to gain the skills that you need. But the problem is that you don't have experience. And with no experience, you don't have a reel, and you don't have a resume. Now the reel can be fixed by taking, like I said, taking footage from movies or making your own movies, editing those things together. However, there's like a step that you have to take in order to get and start gaining experience. And that is probably the toughest part. And I do believe that film school did help me with that, because I did internships, but you don't necessarily have to go to school in order to get an internship. And I think that that's something to consider as well, of reaching out to maybe YouTubers that you really like, and not just reaching out and spamming them, but really reaching out genuinely and saying, hey, listen, I'm trying to grow as a video editor. I still have a lot to learn. Like, is there, any sort of, work that I could do, like I would do it for free or for a little money, and just put yourself out there, because you never know when you might catch one of those YouTubers on a day where they have had it with their own editing and they are looking for help. So I just think putting yourself out there is the best way, and networking and getting to know people and being genuine is the best way.
So the basic conclusion is that you have to put a little effort into something, and what I believe is that every person has their own journeys. Like you can take inspiration from like Colleen, you, and from me. People can take inspiration, but they cannot exactly copy the journey of yours, of like mine. Like if you went through a film school, then it is not a case with somebody else that they also do the same thing to get to that point in this particular career. So my next question is related to degree or diploma or any sort of those things, or graduate certificate, because a lot of people in my community or in comment box, they ask me every time that tell me the best course or the best degree that we can do. Is degree help in this career or not? So what's your take on this?
Yeah, I don't regret that I got a degree. I don't think that it was totally necessary. I think it helped in terms of meeting a lot of people. I'm trying to think back on all the jobs I've done since I've graduated and how many of those jobs I really needed a degree for. Like they specifically looked to see if I had a degree. Maybe one or two of them. I think the rest was all about just knowing the right people and having the work experience. I think work experience is better than education. No matter, I think you can't change my mind. It is way better. I think that having said that, you probably need you might need some level of education. However, this could just be YouTube tutorials. I mean, you could spend hours finding all the tutorials you need to able to learn your platform of choice and pretty quickly. But the difference between what is going to set you apart and start actually getting you jobs is the work experience. So I think it can be helpful if you already would like to get a degree, but if you don't want to go to school and you don't want to pay for it, then I think you don't need it.
I think YouTube is the best teacher. Like you can learn a lot of things from YouTube or on the internet, because there are lots of people who are offering their video editing courses at a very cheaper price than a university fees or college fees, and you can learn a lot about on that. So my next question is that how is editing and editing culture in USA? I am sure in India it is very different. So I want to know the culture in USA for editing.
Well, it's just interesting that you asked, because I'm interested to know the editing culture in India, because for me, my freelance career really started specifically as remote. I did have a video editing job in-house at a marketing company a few years ago before this.
Okay.
I can't really say that's comparable and to the editing culture in the USA. I'll say this. The USA is a capitalist country. Definitely. And right now, this was ignited by COVID. Right now, there is a huge issue with workers being underpaid and mistreated. And people are actually moving to the love of remote work, of freelancing, because it's limitless. And you can do it from anywhere. And so there is a huge surge of people wanting to go remote, wanting to work from home, wanting to ditch their 9-to-5s because they're not really making very much money. And I will say that was a huge thing for me growing up, is that I knew that if I wanted to be a video editor, I was going to have to move to either New York or Los Angeles. And I didn't want to do that. And so when I decided that I didn't want to do that, I thought, well, what the heck am I going to do? Because I really can't make any money here as a video editor. No one's going to pay me that much. And that's whenever I realized I have to go remote. So I don't know if it's the same around the world, but it definitely is becoming huge. And as far as remote work goes, and luckily video editing can easily be done remote. So.
Okay, so like it is same here also, because in India there are two big cities like Delhi and Mumbai. So like a lot of media related work happened in those two cities. A lot of, like, there are still works in other countries, in other cities, but you can find a lot of work in those particular two cities, because again, Mumbai is a central hub of like all the mainstream media, like which is New York or LA. Which is like a proper Bollywood thing, like all those films or those film stars, all those production houses, big studios, all are there in Mumbai. And in Delhi, it's the capital of a country. So basically it is equipped with all those like big industries, big corporate or big production houses. On the internet and on my community, there is always a debate on these two platforms, which is LinkedIn and Fiverr. So according to you, which is best for freelancers?
Yeah, I'm so curious on LinkedIn versus Fiverr, because for me, I consider them two very different platforms. When I think of Fiverr, I think of Upwork. I kind of like pair them two together, because in my mind, they're kind of very similar jobs, versus when I look at LinkedIn for jobs, the jobs are more like there are some like YouTube clients or just some like freelance jobs, but then I also see a lot of corporate positions or more just full-time post positions on LinkedIn. So it's tough for me to say which is better. I personally have never used Fiverr, specifically because when I decided to do freelancing, I found Upwork and I really liked the platform. And so I just stick with it. And Fiverr kind of scares me the way that the packages are. And I was like, well, so I actually just never ended up doing Fiverr. So, however, Fiverr is great to be able to get your foot in the door and get experience, because to my understanding, you can have really enticing packages on there. People want work for really cheap, which is, the same as Upwork. So I think to get your foot in the door, Fiverr is better, but long-term job positions and the quality of job positions, I would say LinkedIn.
So yeah, I think same case with me. Fiverr haven't worked for me. Like I haven't got any single client from Fiverr. I always I get my clients from LinkedIn, either from Instagram, or through like my local contacts. Like Fiverr is is bad for me, so I can't comment on that thing. So same case with me. Talking about like softwares, which software are you currently using?
I use Premiere.
Okay.
I've used Premiere from the very beginning for, I don't even know, years ago, like 15 years ago. And I really never wanted to change. I really like the way that Premiere works. I like how it looks and I like the systems. And I also have come to understand the quirks, because if anybody knows Premiere, they know that it can be very quirky and sometimes doesn't work the way that you want it to work. But I am definitely a Premiere Pro editor.
I'm also using Premiere Pro since 2016. According to my experience, whenever you are editing a long form content, let's say 20-minute plus content or like 30-minute plus content, on that level, according to my experience, Premiere struggles a lot for long form contents, like a lot of crashes and a lot of bugs. You can't get a very smooth playback on long form content. For short form content, Premiere is best because of their layout. So I think I'm using Premiere. I'm stick to Premiere, but every single day I always think that I should shift from Premiere to DaVinci or Avid. But it's like a toxic relationship with Premiere Pro that every time I decided to quit Premiere Pro, it always excites me by displaying like a very normal layout and very easy controls, because like you said that we are using Premiere since a very long time. It's like 5 or 6 years for me, and like for you, spending that much amount of time on a particular software gives you a very homely feeling. Whenever you open a software, just that by closing your eyes, that this thing is there and that thing is there. You just your overall workflow works very smoothly. If you would like to share your future plans or goals about like what are your future plans you have in mind about editing or like career wise?
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier that I was hiring an assistant. My goal, well, I'm not sure what my goal is. I know what I want, and what I want is to possibly create some sort of creative media company where I would be the boss and I would have multiple employees, and we would have clients that we would edit we'll do a varying degree of services. It could include editing, it could include social media help, it could include YouTube help, it could include branding services. That is my hope one day for my future plans. So while I love growing as a video editor, I think I really love being a boss. I really love dealing with multiple clients and just having a more of a business approach to my own skills. So that is my goal.
So best of luck to you for that. And I hope and I pray that you will achieve that one day you will become your own boss about like editing and then sort of all those things. So
Thank you.
Yeah. So my next question here is that how do you take care of your health? Because prolonged sitting is something which is very unhealthy or for your body. So how do you take care of that? Because it is very important, and a lot of people don't talk about that.
It's incredibly important, and it's something that is hard to balance. Last year, for example, I was really focused on building my business and building up clients and being the best video editor that I could be, that I and I already knew this was going to happen, that my health balance was just going to go totally out of whack. You really need to prioritize your health almost as much as your freelance business. And so this year, my goal is to basically do just that. And it doesn't have to be, work out, 3 times a day or whatever. It just needs to be to make your body, and it could be all sorts of things. It can be your eyes, and it could be your body, and just prioritizing it as much as your video editing. For me, that means every hour I'm getting up and away from my desk. I really try and get outside more, especially in the morning. I go for a lot of walks. I have a Fitbit now. So definitely, it doesn't need to be anything crazy, because I think that leads to more burnout. I just think it needs to be valuing your body, because it definitely is so easy to get stuck in your chair, and which can really, it impacts my health pretty sensitively. So I'm happy that like my legs will start, getting crampy, and I'm like, you have to get up, and you have to walk around. So yeah, because these glasses are the sign of video editors. Like every video editor, I say everywhere, from big production houses, from small production houses, they wear glasses. So that is very much important. So Colleen, I think this is it. We have just 1 or 2 questions for our outro section. So how's your experience in this podcast? It was wonderful. I have not had a podcast like this before. So I'm very grateful that you had me on here. And it was really great to not only talk about myself, but be able to hear your insight on a lot of these questions as well. It was really great.
So like I always wanted to start a podcast, but I don't want to start a podcast just a back and forth thing. Like host is asking question and then guest is giving their opinion. I wanted to start a podcast where host is asking a question and then guest is asking, and then host is also giving their opinion. So combined with a very healthy mutual discussion. So I always wanted to do it like that. So anything you wanted to share, or like anything you wanted to say to the listeners or to the audience?
I don't think so. Your questions were really good and detailed, and I feel like I said everything that I wanted to say. I'll just say, check out my channel. And if you have any of your own questions on starting a freelance career, being a video editor, feel free to reach out to me either on Instagram or right in YouTube. I love talking to other editors, especially those who are in the beginning stages, because I just think it's the most exciting time to be a video editor, and you're still figuring out what you want to do. And I just think that is the best time to get to talk to people. So feel free to reach out to me.
So I think this is it, Colleen. Thank you so very much for accepting my invitation to be on this podcast. And I'm very grateful that you did.
Thank you so much. It was great talking to you.
तो आई होप आपको इस पॉडकास्ट से कुछ वैल्यू मिली होगी, कुछ सीखने को मिला होगा. अगर मिला है तो नीचे मुझे कमेंट में जरूर बता देना. मैं मिलता हूँ आपसे अगली वीडियो में. तब तक के लिए स्टे हेल्दी, स्टे सेफ एंड अमन आउट.